Are you the type that looks drastically different with more eye makeup, but you're not quite sure why? I mean, of course, more eye makeup in general is supposed to give you a more dramatic look, but there are some faces that just look so drastically different as soon as they wear a little more eye makeup. So today I'm using the beautiful Dua Lipa to explain her glow up and what it is in her features that makes her so suitable for a bolder style of eye makeup. If you have these features but you don't wear eye makeup on a regular basis, you might be missing out on a glow up opportunity. So make sure to stay tuned till the end to find out why. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new to the channel. As I've promised, today's content is part 2 of the You Need More Makeup series. In part 1, I used Anya Taylor-Joy as an example to explain some of the features that make Anya so suitable for a bold style of makeup. If you haven't watched it, I will link it up here, but the factors that I'm going to be explaining today are not really related to the first video, so you can watch it after you watch this video first if you're interested. So today's example is Dua Lipa, and I think we can all agree that she is so freaking gorgeous, right? And where I think Dua's charm in terms of her appearance comes from is her versatility. She's able to pull off such a wide range of styles, from natural to glamorous to more funky and eccentric. She just looks great in everything, and she looks so vastly different depending on her makeup style. I recently watched the Barbie movie, and I thought Dua Lipa as the mermaid Barbie was also really cute. Anyway, let's talk more about Dua's face in detail to explain why she can pull off such a wide variety of makeup styles. If we look at Dua's facial features, I think that her best feature is her lips. Her lips are what gives her this sexy and luscious look to her. Full and luscious lips have always been a symbol of sexiness in the modern beauty standards, and it's something that women, as we have seen with evidence, are always striving for. For Dua, the width of her lips in her vertical proportions is also on the wider side, so the width combined with the fullness of her lips really makes her lips stand out within her face. But if we look at Dua's facial features apart from her lips, there's actually a few factors that accentuates a more masculine image in her face. First of all, she has a pretty prominent jawline from a frontal view, and if we look at her horizontal proportions, her lower third is the longest section of her face. So her lower face tends to get a little more highlighted in general. She also has really thick and bushy brows, and even though the brows themselves act as a way to draw the emphasis upwards to her eyes, the shape and the thickness of her brows are also factors that add more masculinity to her face. If you remember from my video on facial gender, I mentioned that a more developed T-zone is a factor that adds more masculinity to the face. So that includes your eyebrows, and big bushy brows tend to add a more masculine feel to your look. And Dua's eyebrows are very thick. I think that thickness and prominence-wise, they're similar to Cara Delevingne's iconic brows, right? But the difference between Cara and Dua is that Cara's eyes are much higher in their visual weight because of the color and the overall size, so her eyes have a natural tendency to draw a lot more emphasis to the eyes themselves, and her iconic brows help with making that emphasis on her eyes even stronger. I mean, technically speaking, if I had to pick apart Cara Delevingne's facial features, her nose tip is short and slightly lifted, so her nostrils are a little bit more on the visible side. But because her eyebrows and her eyes work together to draw such strong emphasis to her eye area, any other notable feature in her face are not really highlighted all that much. Compared to that, Dua Lipa's eyes are on the smaller side compared to Cara's eyes, and her irises are also on the smaller side as well, so Dua's eyes don't have that same level of strength that draws a lot of emphasis to her eye area. And because the shape of her brows are also straight, the thick and straight eyebrows end up bringing out a more masculine image in her look, more so than bringing more emphasis to her eyes. Now this is where a bolder style of eye makeup can bring more femininity to Dua Lipa's look. Dua's eyes are not huge, but shape-wise, they're quite beautiful. They're very wide horizontally, and she has the textbook almond-shaped eyes that can appear very sexy. So bold eye makeup styles that bring more emphasis to her eyes, and especially styles that enhance the horizontal width of her eyes, these styles of eye makeup really highlight the sexy and alluring image of Dua's look. Like I said, her lips already add a level of sexiness to her look, and by enhancing the shape of her eyes and making them stand out more, the eyes and the lips work together harmoniously to bring out a more alluring and feminine image in her look that subdues the effects of the more masculine features. So Dua Lipa's face is really interesting in that her face has a substantial amount of both masculine and feminine energies. And this is what I mean by saying that versatility is her strength. Because depending on the style of makeup she wears, the image created can vary quite significantly. With more natural styles, her masculine features get more highlighted and it creates this natural sort of raw and unfiltered look, kind of like a more handsome look, so to speak. And with bolder styles of eye makeup, the femininity in her features are brought out more, so her overall look is sexier and a little more polished. Now, as I mentioned in my facial gender video, having more masculine features doesn't mean you look manly. And I think Dua Lipa is such a great example of that. You know, oftentimes we as women are so fixated on appearing more feminine and sexy and delicate. And having more masculine features is associated with a negative undertone a lot of the times. But like Dua Lipa, having more of your masculine energy be highlighted within your face is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be what makes a person's look more unique. Like I always say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and some people might prefer Dua's natural looks more because they like the raw and unfiltered image, while others might favor her bolder makeup looks that bring out a more feminine and polished look. And I think that the reason why everyone finds Dua Lipa to be so beautiful is because she's able to cater to such a wide range of different tastes and preferences through the versatility of her styles. So for those of you that might not like the masculine features of your own faces so much, rather than thinking about it in a negative way, this could be a chance for you to reshape your opinions about your own features, because those features that you don't like so much, they could very much be what adds more character and uniqueness to your overall look. Now let me go through a couple of other examples that are similar to Dua Lipa's case. First, let's talk about Eva Mendes. Eva's lower face also has more tendency to bring the emphasis downwards. Like Dua Lipa, Eva also has a pretty prominent jawline and she has a wide and full lips like Dua as well, but with Eva, her teeth and her mouth itself tends to protrude more forward, so even though horizontal proportions wise, her top and lower thirds are pretty well balanced and her lower third is only slightly longer, overall the emphasis brought to her lower face is much greater because her lower face protrudes more forward than the top half of her face. And Eva definitely embodies that sexy image like Dua Lipa, and it's her big full lips and the attention brought to her lips that contribute to the sexiness. But she also has some dominant masculine factors in her face. With Eva, it's not the eyebrows, but it's the prominence in her nose bridge and the jawline that brings out a more masculine feel in her look. And in Eva's case, how the emphasis brought to the eyes is strengthened is not with bold eye makeup, but with a high arch shape in her eyebrows. I actually brought up Eva as an example in my eyebrows series, and I explained that a high and dramatic arch shape in the brows is very effective at drawing our gaze upwards. So for someone like Eva, high arches are a great way to bring more emphasis to her eyes instead of to her lower face. And I think this is a good example of how you can use different methods to bring more emphasis to your eyes, even for faces that have similar proportions or features. Now, if you're wondering, then why does Dua Lipa not use a higher arch style? With eyebrow shapes, unless you have really sparse brows that need to be drawn on mostly, you kind of have the natural shape already, and it's difficult to make really drastic changes to the shape without surgical procedures. And with Dua's eyebrows, the shape is more on the straight side, like I mentioned earlier, so her natural arches are not nearly as defined as Eva's natural arches. But we can see with Dua's style changes over the years that she more often used to wear her hair in a way where the arches of her brows were completely covered. Whereas now, we see more frequently that she opts for styles that expose her brows more so that the arches of the brows can be seen better. And thickness-wise, you'll also notice that compared to before, the tails of her brows are on the thinner side now, and that also allows for the arches to be a bit more defined. So these are subtle changes that you probably haven't noticed, but she's still using techniques like defining the brow arches more to bring the emphasis upwards. It's just that the natural shape of her brows doesn't allow for such drastic changes, and the thickness of her brows brings a lot of uniqueness to her face. So maintaining that thickness but making subtle changes is more effective for Dua. Dua also has a bit of a shorter top third, so rather than styles that cover parts of her forehead, keeping the hair away from the forehead as much as possible and using styles that add more length to her forehead is more beneficial in drawing less emphasis to her lower third. Now, you might also be asking, well, if my lips are my best feature, then do I really need to make the effort to draw the emphasis upwards? And the answer in short is no. But like I always say, it's highly dependent on the rest of your face. If we look at Julia Roberts, for example, her best feature is definitely her smile. And I brought her up as an example in my Don't Wear Red Lips video that she rarely wears a bold lip color because her mouth already draws a lot of natural emphasis to the area anyway, that she doesn't really need a bold color to accentuate her smile more. And a bold lip color just ends up highlighting the length of her nose tip instead. But Julia also doesn't necessarily use bold eye makeup techniques to bring the emphasis upwards either. Her makeup is always on the more natural side. I mean, sometimes she wears bolder eye makeup, but generally speaking, her makeup style is pretty natural overall. And the reason why for Julia, even with more natural makeup styles, the emphasis brought to her lower face is not that significant is because she doesn't really have notable features that bring out more masculinity in her face. Julia's jawline is not as wide or defined, and her nose tip is on the longer side, but the overall width of her nose bridge is also not as wide or prominent. Julia also has very big eyes that naturally draw a lot of emphasis as well, so she doesn't really need to draw the attention away from her lower face. I mean, her smile is her best feature after all, and she doesn't have any other features that get overly accentuated in her lower face. And not that a bold makeup style looks bad on Julia, but a more natural style just doesn't drag the emphasis downwards too much. So this is what I mean when I say that the rest of your face is essentially what dictates the kind of makeup style that would suit you the best. Really, there is no right or wrong answers, especially when it comes to makeup styles, because makeup is such a personal thing and it's highly dependent on other factors like your preference or your skin condition as well. So trying out different styles and learning what works best for you through trials and errors is honestly the best advice that I can give you. But just be mindful of these factors that I've talked about throughout this video when you're taking a closer look at your face and trying to understand the best style for yourself. I hope you found today's video helpful. I have a lot of fun scripting these kinds of videos because I get to research a lot of the before and after styles of celebrities' glow-ups, and I get to study these subtle changes that really elevates and polishes their style. And I actually have a couple of these glow-up secrets videos in my very early content using Ariana Grande and Hailey Bieber as examples. So if you're interested, make sure to check those out. And if you have any particular celebrities that you want me to analyze, please leave them in the comments below. I'll see you in my next video, and until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.